Hello everybody and welcome to Amphlett Reviews, back with another Hong Kong content review, continuing on with the Jet Li triple bill from EUREKA, part of the Heroes and Villains pack. We have the second entry in this box set, which is Dr. Y in the description with no words, a bit of a mouthful. Second entry in this one, released in 1996, directed by Tony Ching Su Tong, who did the Chinese Ghost Story trilogy, which I actually do have on the shelf, which I just haven't got around to reviewing as of yet. He also did Duel to the Death, and he's done a few other movies that I haven't quite checked out as of yet. He also co-directed The Executioners, which is the sequel to the Hero Trio with Johnny To, so collaborated with some other directors as well. So this film I knew a little bit going in. I knew this was a bit of a meta kind of film. This was a half kind of period piece, half kind of modern day kind of adventure movie. The concept for this film is quite unique and quite different. Just from watching this film, I don't think this film is for everyone. I think it's more for kind of, hardcore kind of Hong Kong fans, maybe more hardcore Jet Li fans. The film is surprising in a lot of different areas in terms of how the film was made and how it's put together. I think the idea and the concept is very ambitious. It is surprising as well, on the Blu-ray there's actually an international version, which I believe they cut out some of the material, made a more of a kind of streamlined version. I don't know actually what the difference is between the Hong Kong and the international, but I imagine if it's a US kind of, version of the film, they probably chopped out a lot of the interesting stuff out of the film, probably the more modern day stuff. The film essentially is a writer. Jet Li plays a writer. He has two kind of, friends in that kind of building. Two of the actors are in there from the Wong Kar-wai kind of movies, which is fantastic. So you get a lot of kind of big actors in this film. You got a really big cast in this film, which is surprising. Rosamund Kwan was also in this film, playing the wife that he's currently going through a divorce with, which is great, kind of reunion from the Once Upon a Time in China series. So this one is kind of like a half and half. He's going back to his kind of folktale kind of roots, while also being a kind of modern film, meta film. And the concept of the film is Jet Li's character. He's a writer who is known for doing these Adventure King kind of novels, and he is going through a divorce with Rosamund Kwan, and he's very upset. He's someone who is just, falling out of love. He's falling out of love with these kind of series of novels and these Adventure kind of King kind of adventures. And the film is essentially his perspective and multiple different characters throughout the film's perspective, writing this one story to meet a deadline in a sense. And that's where the unique kind of creative nature comes from this film. That's where the unique concept comes from, because the idea is the kind of Adventure King kind of adventure, this kind of folktale, big budget, over the top kind of silly kind of adventure film that we're alternating to between the kind of real world and this adventure story is dictated by the writer, which is quite fascinating. So you get kind of Jet Li's kind of section, which is very angry and kind of bitter, and you get some of the kind of his friends. You've got the wife, Rosamund Kwan's a section. There's different people who do different sections, and the actors and the characters in the real world are being kind of also dual rolled within the kind of narrative. So you got Billy Chow in this one, which is known for the kind of Fist of Legends, so he plays obviously a villain in this one. Rosamund Kwan gets a bit of a interesting kind of character alterations throughout the kind of adventure kind of King kind of novel storyline. And the crux of the film is that the novel is reflecting what's going on in the real world, in terms of the emotion, in terms of this divorce, in terms of Jet Li basically really loves and really cares for Rosamund Kwan's character, and they're going through divorce down to kind of career choices. They wanted a baby and this didn't happen, and he is kind of very bitter and very angry, and it's definitely a bit humorous in places. It's trying to be a bit slapstick in places, a bit here and there. But the core of the story is how the writing and the kind of the feelings can go into a story, very similar to kind of 2046, which is the Wong Kar-wai kind of film, which is similar to that, where he's writing about his experience and putting into a kind of a futuristic sci-fi novel, and you've seen aspects of that play out throughout the film during kind of 1960s kind of Hong Kong. Very fascinating, and I kind of like those kind of internal kind of reflections within kind of story within a story kind of thing. And there's a really cool section in the film which I really appreciated, where you get this kind of big section with Adventure King Jet Li in this kind of storyline, and he kind of meets kind of Rosamund Kwan's kind of character in the novel, and basically she's a waitress, and then Jet Li kind of takes over the writing, and he's very bitter, he's very angry, so he kind of makes her into this kind of really evil kind of the actual person that's kind of ruling over the kind of the situation. So she goes from like this waitress to this kind of evil kind of dictator who's behind all the bad guys, and she gets a few action moments which is quite funny, and she's very evil and ruthless, and he's writing like an angry person, and then you get someone else that writes her character and Jet Li's character, and it turns her back into sort of like a love interest. So this is kind of creative kind of back and forth kind of storyline, which is deliberately inconsistent, it's deliberately kind of messy, it's deliberately kind of all over the place essentially, but still kind of coherent at the same time. There is a through line storyline. I imagine if you took all those pieces and put it together in one movie without the kind of the real world elements, I imagine it would be a lot more confusing, a lot more kind of hard to get into, and I got a feeling that's what might be what the international version might have been, because all those sections together, it's a bit of a mess. It's not really kind of thought out, but as a kind of context in terms of reflection on what's going on in real life versus what's in the story, it does actually work quite well. Ironically, the biggest problem with the film, I think there's not much emotional kind of impact. There's not much emotional stake. The film's telling you there is. The film's telling you there is high stakes, and will they get back together? Will they not? But it's not felt, and at least for me anyway, where it's funny because compared to the last time I watched, the Enforcer, aka My Father is a Hero, that had a lot of melodrama, but the emotional core of that film was the story between the father and son and his relationship with his wife, and you felt the emotion in that film. You felt the kind of the drive to get stuff done. In this one, because it's so back and forth between the real world and this adventure novel, it's throwing a lot at you in terms of some of the gimmicks and some of the over-top nature. The fight scenes are very kind of silly and over the top, and it's fun. It is really fun. The film is swinging big, and sometimes it hits, sometimes it misses. So it's a bit of kind of an odd film in terms of how it's kind of put together. While I do think there is some shortcomings with it, ultimately, I don't think this film is going to be for everyone. If you're expecting an all action-packed kind of adventure film, you're not going to get it. If you're expecting a bit more of a daring kind of idea with some cool action moments, with Jet Li, good performance, and an all-star cast, then I think you're gonna have a good time with this one. I think it's a nice addition to the set. I do prefer the Enforcer more, but I do appreciate this film, and I think I will like it more on a second viewing as well going forward. I might check out the international version to see what the difference is as well. So that's been my thoughts and opinions on Dr. Y and the Scripture with No Words. What are your thoughts and opinions, guys? What are your thoughts on meta kind of films, the ideas of kind of stories within stories? We've seen this a few times within kind of Hong Kong movies with 2046, and a lot of Western movies obviously do this with obviously like the horror genre with Scream, for instance. So what are your thoughts and opinions on this one, and what are your thoughts on this new release from EUREKA? I'd love to know your thoughts and opinions, guys. Please comment down below. So in the meantime, guys, I will see you on the next one. Signing out.